I want to talk about my first year expectations for Doug Pederson with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, as we already know, the Jaguars were the worst team in the NFL last season. They were poorly coached and they didn't have a lot of talent, which is why they had the number one overall pick in the draft for a second consecutive year in a row. But they hired Doug Pederson. And this was my favorite head coaching hiring during the whole entire offseason. And the reason for that is because Jacksonville got a winner. This is the first head coach in a while that Jacksonville has gotten that actually knows what it takes to build a championship caliber football team. Doug Pederson has a Super Bowl ring. And even though a lot of people don't want to give him the proper credit he deserves for that, it's really weird. Like, you tell somebody Doug Pederson is a Super Bowl winning coach, and they'd be like, oh, he only won it because of Frank Reich. Well, I mean, he was the guy in charge of bringing Frank Reich to Philadelphia. He hired him, so he doesn't get no credit for that. I mean, at least the guy has a talent for finding coordinators. And Frank Reich is currently the head coach of Indianapolis. So I don't know why people don't like giving Frank Reich the credit he deserves for the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl win against the New England Patriots. And the fact that he did it with Nick Foles is even more impressive. But yet, for some reason, people just want to undermine his success. It's really irritating. But Jacksonville has a head coach that knows what it takes to win. And Jacksonville hasn't done a lot of winning in the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, they haven't done a lot of winning in the last decade or so. They have only had, one good season? And that was that one lone season when they lost to the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game. So you look at Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence finally is going to have a real head coach. Because last year, he didn't have a real head coach, which is why his rookie season went the way it did. And a lot of people were really shocked, even myself included. If you were going to tell me that Mac Jones and Davis Mills were all going to have better rookie seasons than Trevor Lawrence, I would have looked at you like you were crazy. But now you have some stability. And you also have a head coach who's going to do things the right way. You have a head coach who knows what it takes to build a winning culture in the locker room. And you're also going to have somebody who's going to establish a better locker room chemistry than what Urban Meyer was able to do. I don't think you build a winning football team by kicking and harassing your kicker. Didn't really make a lot of sense, Urban. Still need some clarification on that. But anyway, you have somebody who is a legit leader of men. You have somebody who's going to bring this team together. And that's really all you're looking for if you're a Jaguars fan. Because when you have a team that has good chemistry and a team that kind of has like a brotherly bond in the locker room, you have a team that's not going to get blown out as many times as what you saw last year. You want to know why the Jaguars got blown out so many times? Because they didn't play together as a team. Because Urban Meyer didn't bring them together as a team. So with Doug Pederson, he's going to establish a good culture in that locker room. And it's going to translate on the field. You're also going to have a head coach that's going to have his team better prepared than what Urban Meyer ever had this team prepared last year. And think about it. Think about how many one-possession games the Jacksonville Jaguars were in last season. And think about how many one-possession games that Jacksonville potentially could be in this season. Because although this roster still has a lot of room for improvement, there are some really nice pieces. You have your guy in Trevor Lawrence. Pending if something drastic happens and he stinks it up again, I think that Trevor Lawrence should bounce back this year. Then you have a pretty good 1-2 punch at the running back position with James Robinson and Travis Etienne, which we didn't see Travis Etienne play at all last season because he got injured. And then James Robinson, for some reason, Urban Meyer just refused to really utilize him in a sense. It's kind of like Urban Meyer did everything he could to keep James Robinson from being effective. Now, I don't know what it was, but anytime Carlos Hyde is getting more carries than your RB1, there's a problem. So you have a pretty good 1-2 punch at the running back position. Your quarterback spot is solidified. Wide receiver is where a lot of people have concerns about. And I have concerns about the wide receiver position myself. You bring in Christian Kirk. He is somebody who does have wide receiver one upside. It's just that he has to prove it to everybody. And I think that he does have the potential of being a very solid wide receiver one. Then you have Marvin Jones, who pretty much was the best wide receiver on this team last season. And he is a really high-end wide receiver too. However, if you need him to be your number one, that could be a little bit of a problem. Then you have Zay Jones and Evan Ingram, and the rest of the wide receiver position is just to be decided. It's just, we just have to take a wait and see approach. I'm still really high on Laviska Shenault. I feel like he could be used in a slot/running back hybrid role. Even though you do have James Robinson and Travis Etienne, I still feel like you can still find a way to get him in the backfield with his skill set. I just feel like he's too good just to leave him at the slot receiver position. When you look at his build, I think that he definitely could end up kind of being what Cordell Patterson is with the Atlanta Falcons, being able to not only play running back, but also playing receiver as well. I think he has that kind of versatility. Then you have Laquan Treadwell, who got re-signed again. He had a pretty solid season, and last year was the best season that he had of his career because pending up to that point, he was a bust. So you got Evan Ingram. You're kind of having him playing a tight end / hybrid slot receiver role. Don't really know what's going on with that, but he is a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. However, the issue is how consistent is he going to be when it comes to catching the football? But he does have a lot of upside, and if he works out well in Doug Pederson's system, he could end up being a really good tight end. Then the offensive line is drastically improved. You have Cam Robinson, you have Ben Barch, you have Brandon Sheriff, who has been one of the best interior offensive linemen in the league for the last couple of years. Then at right tackle, we don't really know what's going to happen there. Jawan Taylor has kind of been up and down. This is a really big season for him. This is pretty much a make or break year, because if he ends up struggling, then we could see Walker Little take over at that right tackle spot. Some people already expect Walker Little to start over Jawan Taylor, but I still think that Jawan Taylor still has a very high chance of remaining the starter. However, I think he's going to be on a pretty thin leash. Now, defensively, you have Josh Allen, probably still your best player on the defensive end of the ball. You have rookie linebacker who you selected late in the first round, Devin Lloyd. I felt like this was one of the bigger steals in the draft. And Devin Lloyd, to me, was a top 15 talent. It's just that you knew he was going to fall in the draft simply for the fact that linebacker, I guess, wasn't in high demand this year for some reason. But if you watch the film, he reminds me exactly of Devin White. Very good in coverage, fast, good instincts to the ball. I think he could be a candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year right away. Then you have Forrest Oluokun, who was one of the leading tacklers on the Falcons last season. He is going to improve the linebacker position. Miles Jack, don't know why he had the season he had before. Well, I can tell you why he had the season he had before, because of poor coaching. But you bring him in, so the linebacker position looks really nice right now. And even the depth, I like Shaquille Quarterman. I like Dakota Allen. So they have pretty good depth there. Then you have Trayvon Walker. Going to be really interesting seeing how his rookie season goes, because I don't really know how I feel about the Trayvon Walker selection, because it has a high chance of being really successful and also being a really bad pick. On top of that, Jacksonville hasn't really been the best when it comes to developing their first round selections. As a matter of fact, most of their first round selections don't even get re-signed to Jacksonville. They end up getting traded and playing elsewhere. So the development of Trayvon Walker is going to be really key to me when it comes to this coaching staff, because Jacksonville for a very long time has really struggled when it comes to developing pass rushers. As a matter of fact, Kayvon Chasen, remember him? Yeah, I don't either. So you bring in Darius Williams, and I'm really confused. What is Darius Williams' role going to be with this team? Because you already have Tyson Campbell and you have Shaquille Quarterman. Now, I had a friend of mine who is a Jaguars fan, by the way. I asked him what's going on with corner. He said that he thinks that there may be a chance that Shaquille Griffin ends up playing in the slot. And I say, okay, interesting. Because you're definitely not going to move Tyson Campbell to the slot because he was your best cornerback last year. That wouldn't make any sense. So the cornerback position is a little bit of a question, but not in a bad way. Like, you love to have these questions. You love to have 3 starting corners that are good enough to start on the outside. That one is going to have to end up playing slot corner. I think that this is a good situation to have. Now, safety, Rayshon Jenkins, Andrew Wingard, Andrew Cisco, really intrigued in seeing how that plays out. But although this is a team that doesn't have enough talent to be a playoff contender, this is still a team that has enough talent to hang around with a good amount of teams in this league. And I think that they could be the equivalent of what the Atlanta Falcons were last season. You see, the Falcons, they pretty much lost to the best teams in the league, but they beat the average to above average teams. And I think that's what Jacksonville is going to be able to do. And I think that Jacksonville is going to have a couple of games that they're going to surprise some people. They're going to have an upset or two, because they almost had a couple of upsets last year, but they couldn't get it done. They couldn't get it done in the fourth quarter. You look at Doug Pederson, he's going to have this team prepared. They're not going to be playing like how they did last year, getting blown out in almost every single game. This team is going to be competitive. So 6-7 wins is my expectation in year 1 for Doug Pederson with Jacksonville. I definitely feel like this is the kind of coach that Jacksonville needs. Jacksonville needs a winner. And it was kind of the reason why I believe they hired Urban Meyer, because they wanted somebody who won. But they hired Urban Meyer, who won, but he never did it at an NFL level. He won at the college level. So now you bring in Doug Pederson. I think it's going to be really intriguing to see what Jacksonville does this season. But my expectations is at least 6 wins. And I don't really think that should be hard to do, because this team definitely looks to be a 6-win team on paper. And with Trevor Lawrence, if Trevor Lawrence ends up having a really good year 2, him alone is going to be enough to at least get you 4 wins. So if he ends up playing better than what he did last year and lives up to him being worthy of the number 1 overall selection, you're going to have 4 wins there. Then the question remains, where do the other 2 wins come from? You're probably going to split a game or 2 with the Houston Texans. And I also think that you could split a game with the Tennessee Titans as well. So for Jacksonville, this is a team that may be a little bit under the radar in a sense. And I'm not saying they're going to be under the radar when it comes to playoff contention. I'm not saying they're going to make it to the playoffs. All I'm saying is that this team is going to be able to hang around with some teams compared to last year. So you guys let me know what are your first year expectations for Doug Pederson down in the comment section down below. And I will see you guys shortly with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.